Hi everybody, I'm Mike the Man and welcome to my channel. I have raced through some of the previous subjects without realizing that it is not important to get through every single statement, because I had a few days where I didn't do any videos and instead I watched a lot of videos. I finally watched the Chronicles of Olivia interview. I watched it several times. It's an overload of statements in there that I won't be able to get to, simply because I rather take my time with each and every one of them. However, as time goes by, well, let me take this back. I probably will get to them, because I am not interested in the new statements as much as the old ones, when the case was still very fresh. Now we have statements that are more, well, they learn. Let me say it like that. They always learn, especially if they watch a lot of true crime and analyze themselves, which I think Katie has been doing consistently. And first of all, Christopher Proudfoot, let's avoid any misunderstanding. I have removed the quote of his from my previous video, from the title, because I want to make sure that everybody understands. I am not saying that Chris Proudfoot is saying he was vetted, because he didn't say that. If you said, I have been vetted and cleared, both me and my wife have been vetted and we are cleared, there are reliable statements. Does he make the statement? What can he commit to? Can he linguistically commit to, I have been vetted and cleared? Read this one more time. I can promise you every single parent has been vetted. I can't go into details, but by the way, this is comedy by now. When you read, I can't go into details. He's saying that every single time that he doesn't want to get into a subject matter, and whenever he says, I can't go into details, I'm not allowed to talk about it, I won't divulge, pay attention to the subject matter. Bring it to my attention if there's anything else where Chris Proudfoot has been saying, I cannot get into this. Because we have the lights, the flashlights, he cannot get into what medication Sebastian took that particular night, even though he will tell you every night and nightly and daily he was on medication. Did he take any medicine that night? He cannot talk about it. So it is that those are, look, he thinks he outsmarts people. I'm sure he does think he is pretty bright. But what he is doing, he's really telling you where you have to look. He can't go into details. Well, let's go back to the beginning. I can promise you. You can also say, I promise you. Every single... Look at this. Vetted is the last word of that sentence. I and vetted. Are far apart from each other. He is distancing himself from what he is suggesting happened. He is not telling you what happened, but he is suggesting something because he wants you to back off. The question was, do you get hate on the internet? And immediately Chris interrupted her. He didn't even let her finish the sentence. Do you get hate? That, he said. And then she finished the sentence on the internet. He said a lot more than this, but this is the most important part. I promise you. Don't make promises. You're talking about everybody has their opinions and everybody knows who is guilty and who is not guilty. By the way, we are not talking about guilt here. You said that your son ran away. He walked out of the house. So let's remember that. That's exactly the story that they stuck with. Of course, their language has indicated they believe otherwise, or know otherwise, actually. I can promise. He doesn't promise you. He only tells you that he can promise. I can promise you. Every single parent has been vetted. Who is every single parent? What about all three of us? Why can't you take linguistically ownership of the process of being vetted? Why can you not commit to this? Every single parent. Well, if you want to look at another meaning of the word single, Seth would be a single parent. I mean, he didn't have Sebastian, only a couple of weekends per month. Every single parent, not us, not all three of us, every single parent has been vetted. He's speaking in the third person here. Every single parent has been vetted. He is distancing himself as much as he can from what he wants to make you believe. He can promise you. Yes, anybody can promise anything to anybody. Promises are easy to make, but what about keeping them? And why do you need to promise something here if everything that you're stating is factual? I want to hear, I have been vetted and I have been cleared. By the way, I apologize for getting Laken Riley and Riley Strain mixed up. I remember when the case of Sebastian happened, around the time, a little bit before that, the Laken Riley case at the University of Georgia was in the news. And later, Riley Strain, who I believe it was March 8 that he disappeared. So this interview is from March 17 or March 18, 20 days after the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers. And so when Chris Proudfoot referenced Riley Strain, he said, I can only imagine what the family is going through. Wow. You didn't have your son for 20 days. You supposedly do not know where your son is. The hell that you must be going through would be something that would make you one of the few people that can 100% relate to and know what Riley Strain's family was going through at the time, because their son wasn't found until March 22, I believe. But he says, I can only imagine. No, he cannot relate. He isn't going through what they are going through. This is also a very red flag. And I have again never seen as many red flags in any case without an arrest having been made. I have previously stated that I am convinced Katie Proudfoot is actually a sociopath. Do not expect a sociopath to ever admit guilt. Do not expect her ever to crack. Chances are she will take the truth to the grave. And what is probably going to be needed in this case is a witness. If I had to make a guess, I would say Chris will break and crack eventually. He will not be able to sustain the growing... for some reason these people have some supporters, but he will not be able to handle what is going on. In the beginning he was able to threaten people, or he felt he was able to threaten people, but the support for Sebastian grew and grew, and the suspicions towards the Proudfoots has been increasing, and the case gets known more and more. And you don't have to be an analyst or criminologist or anything to see something is wrong with their story. It's been lie after lie, but it's not necessarily important to count the lies. What is important is to find the right ones, to help us, to help guide us. And I will make more and more videos about this, because I will show how consistently these people have been lying about the same things. Then we can look at the sensitive areas. I can promise you. Okay, great. Thank you. You can really? Okay, great. You're telling me something you're able to do. I can promise you that I'm gonna shoot 1 under par today. Yeah. You're gonna believe me? Are you gonna say tomorrow that this is what I did? Remember, every single time you have heard a line like this, I can promise you. Look through old emails, that's what I often do. Knowing who told me the truth, who tried to deceive me, who stretched the truth, who told me a so-called white lie. We live in a white lie society, people. And because of that, a lot of phrases have become overused, because people cover up the details, or they cover up the exact numbers. Numbers, that's one aspect people lie about all the time. Numbers. It's very common. People lie on a daily basis. Not everybody all the time, but most people lie on a daily basis. Ever since we are children, we have grown up into a society where sometimes you're pushed into the corner and you didn't have time to do homework, or something happened and you were not able, and you don't want to face the consequences, and start to lie like everybody else. And eventually lying becomes a part of everybody's life. But your language will always show it. In your language, you give yourself away. Chris Proudfoot says he can only promise you. That's the only thing he can do. Give you a promise. Every single parent. He doesn't take ownership. He doesn't say us three. Me, my wife, and Seth. He doesn't say that. Every single parent. He is distancing himself from what he wants you to believe as much as he can. And if that wasn't enough, he says now I can't go into details. Because he caught himself. He's already stretched it so far that a follow-up question would be detrimental to him. He knows he wouldn't be able to handle it. I can't go into details. He says it every single time when there is a sensitive subject matter. And that is his pattern. Katie just shuts down. Now she's pleading the fifth. But Chris is a talker. He loves to talk. So he will always tell you, I can't go into details. Okay, this one I'm not allowed to talk about. So he can continue talking about something else. Katie Proudfoot will just say, okay, I'm done. She knows, okay, I better shut up now. And that's often when Chris comes in and interprets what she said or claims she said something that she didn't actually say. But Chris is telling you, I can't go into details. This is a very sensitive area because he did not actually tell you that he has been vetted. He did not say that. Know the difference. Look at old business emails or look at anything where you know somebody who turned out to be very dishonest with you. Look at the words. I bet you will find a lot of red flags that maybe haven't stood out to you because, like I say, we hear from politicians or company spokespersons, we hear a lot of deceptive language all the time, all of the time. Vague language, where somebody is not answering a question at all. Or at least not directly. We are used to that. We are used to the people that we are supposed to admire being deceptive all of the time. That is the society we live in. What I'm telling you is when you study statement analysis, you have to go back in time and you have to reset yourself. Oh, that's just something people say. No. Look, in this case, imagine being accused of a terrible crime, such as having had something to do with the disappearance of your own child. Imagine that. He complains all the time about the hatred that he gets. When asked, how do you deal with it every single day? How do you deal with your days? That's what the same Olivia, I believe is her name, would be her name, right? Asked them. And Chris Proudfoot said every day he wakes up to the negativity of people. He didn't even mention Sebastian. What is it like to wake up every single day and not know where your son is? That wasn't the exact question, but that was what she was referring to. What is it like? And Katie Proudfoot called it and said, well, my son still isn't here, and in addition, my son still isn't here. She realized that this guy did just another blunder. Blunder 10,000. That should be his name, Blunder 10,000. One after the other. He didn't even know what she was referring to. She was referring to the desperation he must be feeling. They must be feeling. And it didn't even register with him that she talked about Sebastian. His mind was still on the negativity from people. But what is negativity exactly? This is reasonable negativity because you have been lying again and again and again and again about a case where you should be cooperating and put everything out on the table. Let the dog search my property again. Please come. I want to find my son. But no, shortly afterwards, after he was reported missing, they actually took off with the trailer. Took off from the home. And what did they do? Leave some cookies outside? I mean, this case is just incredible. It is unbelievable, this case. But it's a great training tool. It is an excellent training tool, actually, for anybody who wants to learn more about statement analysis. You can visit my blog too if you want to read more. I haven't updated it in a couple of weeks, but I am going to make a more lengthy analysis quite soon. At least one I will spend a few hours on. Quite a few hours on. Because I want you guys to realize how step by step you get to something. Even though I think videos can be actually a lot more informative if you have the time to watch them and listen to them. I can't go into details. See, there's a disclaimer. Basically, what Katie finally did, take the fifth. Chris is taking a lot of unofficial fifths here, a lot of them. And mind you, the police detective in his emails has told people, no, there are no restrictions. They can say whatever they want. If you tell also that every single day and night Sebastian took medicine, why can't you answer if he took medicine that night? Those are red flags, people. There are more. I've made a list actually on X about the subject matters that Chris refuses to talk about. There are quite a few. He can't go into details. Bam! When he says it, then mark the whole previous statement as significant, as highly sensitive. Whenever Chris Proudfoot says, I can't go into details, now go back and see what he said. This question is about hate on the internet, as the lady called it, which probably comes from his language in the pre-interview. In the other interview, the lady actually stated, me and you have talked about this before. And she said that only when she was about to ask about people suspecting these people. That was the most important thing to Chris Proudfoot, that people don't suspect. Not one word about Sebastian when he was asked, how do you make it through the day? Oh yeah, my son is missing. I forgot all about that. And by the way, yes, the dynamics between step parents and biological parents, there is a difference. There can be a difference. But if your wife is suffering because her son is gone, even if you didn't have a great relationship, even if somebody had his stepson only for a couple of years and he was already 13 years old and didn't raise him and didn't... When you see your spouse in pain and being completely distraught over the disappearance of her biological child, you will suffer with her if she is distraught, which Katie is not. Watch the video called Duping Delight on my channel and you will be surprised. There is no person of interest like the person of interest, and it is so obvious, and a lot of people get sidetracked too much. Don't listen to these long lives and podcasts about where these people come on and only try to distract you. I like facts. I look at the facts when they come my way. If it's not necessarily factual, I stay away from it and stick to the statements, because I can't allow myself to get sidetracked. But we have been vetted. But you already said that, right? Didn't you just tell us already? Okay, you want to say it again? I can't go into details, but he knows, he feels this is not enough. He needs to break it up right now and say, I can't go into details. But we have been vetted. You have to believe me. Who is we? if somebody accused you of something, hate is gonna hate, right? Well, the term haters and hate, I don't think it applies here. Maybe there are people who are hateful towards them. But your language, Chris Proudfoot, your language is very hateful towards Sebastian. Very hateful. Kathy Bowersox's language is very hateful towards both Sebastian and Seth. Very hateful. These are people who are concerned about your stepson. These are people who are also absolutely... They want answers. They want answers because you owe us answers. Chris Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot owe everybody an answer. And they're not giving it. They're dancing around it. I can't go into details. Once again, I can't. Chris is a very obvious liar. A very obvious one. I'm sure he thinks he's pretty good at it. That's why he keeps doing it. But let's not let him sidetrack you. All of this is right here on the table, on the board. But too many people pay too much attention to stuff that has nothing to do with actual events. But we have been vetted and we have been cleared. The other pattern is the Katie seems to say it whenever there's a shift in events and significance, when she's about to say something. That's her break to think. And Chris? He often uses when he's about to make a disclaimer about what he has just stated. In Katie's case, it's usually something completely new is about to be talked about. She's about to say something completely, she's gonna move on in her story and doesn't really know how to or which is the best way, or wants to, she wants to kill an element of time. Step over something that's not significant, or spend too much time on something that shouldn't be significant. It wouldn't be significant if there was no wrongdoing. But we have been vetted and we have been cleared. Katie also, when she is talking from a script, she's racing through her statements and she's making grammatical mistakes. And her sentences are often overlapping. And many times there are double negatives, and what she says when it's written down and transcribed doesn't even make any sense at all. And oftentimes it says the opposite of what she should be saying. And doesn't catch it, because she's only talking from the script and there are no ums when she's reading from the script in her mind. But we have been vetted and we have been cleared. Okay, let's see what he has been cleared of. There is we. He's hiding behind somebody. He's hiding behind a single parent. A single parent he's hiding behind. And that single parent is Seth, who had nothing to do with this. Every single parent has been vetted. He is thinking about somebody. And who he's thinking about is the one of the three that has no knowledge and is completely innocent in this matter and has been desperately trying to figure out where his son is from the very beginning. He hasn't been searching in a while. Yeah, I wouldn't either, because he didn't run into the woods. We know what happened. And until we are being told by the persons of interest what happened to him. There is no need to search randomly in your backyard or wherever. Many people do that just for show. We have seen that. Again, when people do that and they have a life, don't participate in it. Don't feed the enemy. Don't let people sidetrack you. That's where it all started with Seth and JLR and all these people. Seth called them all out. That's why they hate him, even though JLR always talked about, Chris Proudfoot. Where's Sebastian in the beginning? You look at his older posts. It all shifted when he was on the when Seth appeared with, I believe, Trevor Lee. Was it him? And Seth stated, no, Seth basically said, you guys been making a lot of money off of my missing son who's still missing, but you're not adding any value. You're only dragging it out. You see, I think JLR did a great thing with the interview with neighbor Bobby. Strangely, there are people who try to convince me that that neighbor is not reliable, but they haven't told me why. You see, that's the beauty of statement analysis. Whenever somebody comes at you with any kind of claim and tries to sidetrack you, you can already tell in the first sentence. When you get an email and it's deceptive, if you don't see it in the subject line, you usually see it in the first sentence of the email. You already know the intent. And I call it and coined it intention detection. What is the intention of the person writing to you? Statement analysis is not only great for criminal cases, but it's great for business. It's great in every aspect of life. You can learn how to prioritize when you have to deal with a lot of people. I can't go into details, but this one I need to get in, right? But. Haven't you heard me the first time? I have been vetted and cleared would be a statement that you can make one time. Our police have vetted me. They have also cleared me as a suspect. That is all that needs to be said. And look how long this is. When you ask somebody, did you kill your wife? No, I didn't. I did not kill my wife. Anything after such a short and poignant statement will wind up being flagged, because that's all you need to say, and you will not sugarcoat something if you're innocent. You will not say, well, let me tell you like this. There are haters, and some of them think that me and my wife had some problems, and maybe I have another lady on the side, and no, I didn't kill her. That statement I just made up would be a statement that needs to be flagged. And guess what? We've been reading and hearing such statements, similar ones, throughout our lives, of people who wound up being found guilty, usually. Except OJ. He was a great statement analysis case study, and well, it's weird how anticlimactic his death was, right? After all of that. And he is a sociopath as well. He was a genuine sociopath. I don't use sociopath as a swear word at all. It is a condition. It is a very, very real condition. Sociopathy is a real thing, and it's a very unique thing. And people who are sociopaths, such as Ted Bundy, Casey Anthony, and her father, in my humble opinion only, are able to fabricate something and almost make themselves believe of it, to the point where they will never stray from it. Regular statement analysis has a hard time catching Katie Proudfoot. Many of her statements show up as reliable. She's able to lie very well. And she has been lying her whole life very well. Likely in her childhood when she covered up what was going on at home. If you have looked into the family a little bit, the dysfunction. She managed to get out of it, have a career, and well, who she really became under all of the priorities that we have in life, that's coming out now. And she will not confess, she will not break, because part of her being, her inner being, is so connected to all the lies she's been telling her whole life. She cannot break away from that. A sociopath is terrified of one thing, and that's to be found out. Because once a pattern is being detected, everything else will crumble. Every lie they've ever told, and she's told a lot of lies throughout her life. That's what she is good at. Both Chris and her made some very similar statements, with the exception that when Chris said it, it showed up as deceptive. When Katie said, it showed up as not deceptive. How can this be? So let's go into what Chris Proudfoot actually says they, whoever they are, he's hiding behind a single parent. He's hiding behind the innocent parent and riding his wind shadow, as you would say in several other languages. A wind shadow is when you ride a bike, you ride behind the person, you ride behind another person, and the wind takes you and speeds you up. He is riding the wind shadow of Seth. He includes himself, he injects himself into another person's innocence. And suddenly he calls himself a parent. He includes himself as a parent who needs to be reminded by Katie Proudfoot that the journalist wasn't asking, how do you feel every single day waking up to people hating you or the negativity? No. She was asking about your son, and you already forgot. Because you can only imagine what it is like. You can only imagine what it's like to desperately look for your child. All of this is what Chris himself has been telling us, people. Every statement needs to be looked at as is, without putting any words into his mouth or telling yourself, he probably tried to say this or that. But he isn't saying it. We need to look at exactly what is Chris Proudfoot saying. But we have been vetted, and by the way, this is all my opinion, and I'm doing what I can to share how I have formed it. But we have been vetted, and we have been cleared. Now the disclaimer. Now the conditioning. Now he needs to minimize what he just said. Of all possibilities, what are the possibilities? And he doesn't say of all wrongdoings or foul play. And foul play, was it really already such a discussion at the time? Well, I guess it was in people's minds. It was on my mind, yeah, because I saw the statement about the thud and did you fall out of bed? There were enough indicators. That video, who caused Sebastian Rogers' disappearance, is one that I do recommend to you guys if you want to look it up on my channel. if you're new to my channel, if there's only one other video that you watch, make it that one, just to get an introduction into the case, how I have become so interested in this case. And I don't let go. I don't jump from case to case. I will do a little bit more Somerville's, and well, Somerville's I already concluded what I think happened, and I don't think we're gonna get any further than that. John Benny Ramsey, I have concluded. I actually still have a couple of videos that I haven't shared yet, and I will share them eventually. But this case is one of the most important ones. We have been cleared of all possibilities of wrongdoings. Not all wrongdoings, but possibilities. Is it possible? Again, he is watering down everything that he is saying. He's disclaiming again and again, and doubling down on the disclaimers. He doesn't just promise you, he only can promise you. He only tells you that he can do so. That isn't the same like promising you. I promise you. Are you gonna be home before 8 p.m.? A child will say, I promise. Not say, I can promise. Not likely, at least, if the child intends to show up at that time. So, anything else that you guys notice about any of the statements that I'm looking at, feel free to always add whatever you see. I don't care if it shows something that I've missed. As I've said before, I had a few days where I didn't make videos, and I allowed myself to listen to longer interviews of the Proudfoots, and it was statement after statement after statement that I recognized needs to be examined eventually. And I was trying to get to as many as possible of them. And this video I'm making because, well, because the quote I used in the title of the previous one could have been misleading, even though I used quotation marks. And so I have changed that, and I realized when I make a mistake, not a mistake necessarily, but when I could have done something better, because clearing up confusion is why we are here. And my mind was already so far ahead of what I was talking about actually at the time. I had to slow myself down. And I realized I haven't even explained this part sufficiently yet. No, I didn't say he was vetted. I was asked, and I thank you for asking me this. Mike, how do you know Chris has been vetted? That's when I realized, okay, I need to take my time with these videos. I need to make sure I don't leave anything untouched until I feel like now I'm done. Now I've done the best that I could have done explaining what we're looking at here. He doesn't say he has been vetted, and he doesn't say he has been cleared by police. He has not been cleared of any suspicion, only of the possibilities, of all possibilities. Everywhere, anything. And before, he told us everything is still on the table. Nothing has been eliminated. All possibilities are still there. The number one possibility, you had something to do, or your wife had something to do, and you know about it with the disappearance of Sebastian. That is the number one suspicion. That is the number one suspicion out there. I don't care how vocal their friends are online, and they're becoming less and less as it becomes more obvious But I don't care how boisterous these people are, or Kathy Bowersox, or any of them. It is becoming more and more obvious. That is the number one possibility, that is the number one thing that's on the table. Nothing's been eliminated. Oh well, hold on. But you want us to believe you have been cleared? That is a contradiction. And it makes it even more obvious that Chris Proudfoot doesn't say I have been vetted and cleared. He doesn't say me and my wife have been vetted and cleared. Both of us have been cleared. Police has cleared and vetted us. Yes, I can get into it. We have been vetted and cleared. And that's it. Instead, we look at all of this long statement of all possibilities of wrongdoings, foul play. Wrongdoings, what do you think is wrong, Chris? Remember when he talked about the polygraph test? And he says it's an open book cheat test. If you don't like the words, you can change them. His mind is already around the wordings. He's using language he's comfortable with, and in his mind he didn't do anything wrong. Nothing. He's telling us again and again that Sebastian in his mind wasn't likable at all. He was awkward, he was weird, he played Minecraft, and kids don't play Minecraft, they play whatever other games. Really? Name one. Because according to Google, Minecraft is the most popular game among kids. Of course, if you're a high school teacher in Hendersonville and you know that the kids are in that region are into Fortnite more than Minecraft, feel free to correct me. But there's nothing weird about playing a game that is the most popular one. He's talking about how he will lead the conversations always back to his areas of interest. That's what autistic people do. Autistic people do that because their mind doesn't jump back and forth, and they don't worry about social fakeness, I need to call it now, because I'm on his side. I don't see anything wrong with somebody being who he is. I personally do not. I have my interests. I'm either very interested in something or not at all. And I don't see a need for me to change myself and be a little bit interested in everything but not passionate about anything. And most people seem to be that. And we adapt in life and later try to figure out what's my purpose, who am I? A lot of people are like that because when they were children, they were basically told, you, the way you are, is not enough. You need to learn to have social skills. Yes, you need to learn social skills for the purpose of interacting in business and so on and so such. Unfortunately, you need to learn these things. But it doesn't need to change you into a persona. So the things that a lot of people say are wrong about autism or autistic people, I find them not wrong at all. I'm pretty sure had I been born 20 years later, I would have already been diagnosed with Asperger's or something like that. Not that I would agree with such diagnosis, but it's very easy to categorize people and box them in. I see nothing wrong with what Sebastian was doing. He was good at playing chess. Yeah, I wouldn't be interested in talking about Minecraft with him, but you find common denominators with people. But again, this is just me sharing a little bit of what I've been thinking about, and I can't help thinking about while I'm analyzing the language of Christopher and Katie Proudfoot primarily. And Chris, you're only telling us more and more that we were right in our first analysis. You're doubling down on everything. You're again red flagging all the same areas that you cannot talk about. Wrongdoings, foul play. There's nothing to that. Nothing to what? What is there nothing to? Nothing to that. Also distancing. Not nothing to this or nothing to it, to that. Dismissing. This is not a statement that he has been vetted. As a matter of fact, this indicates he hasn't been. And he hasn't been cleared at all. If you had been vetted and you had been cleared, that would be something you would answer immediately, especially if you whine about the hate and the negativity. I don't know what these people are talking about. I was vetted. I was cleared. My wife has been vetted. She has been cleared. You would make this perfectly clear. No, I had nothing to do with the disappearance of my stepson. And neither did my wife. If you believe, she didn't. But none of this is being said.